volume right. Okay.
Check, 1, 2.
Hi, we had a baby.
We're parents.
For real though.
Mom, Dad.
So, welcome back to Meet the Dixons. We are going to tell our labor and delivery story today. We did a home birth in our beautiful apartment right here in Tennessee, and yeah, we wanted to tell the story. Yeah. So I wanted to film our birth, but it happened so fast and got intense really fast, and so I didn't have time to think about filming. I very much was just focused on labor and delivery. So here's what we got in video form of the day. Hello! Okay, so it is January 3rd, and I am 41 weeks and 3 days pregnant, and this morning I woke up and I was having some cramps and my hips were really hurting, and I thought, oh, maybe I just slept wrong, but I took a shower and it continued, and I went and had an ultrasound done today to make sure that the baby and the placenta and everything was going well, and we checked my cervix while I was there, and I'm 50% effaced right now, and I'm pretty sure that I'm having contractions. My midwife said that they are contractions, so that's really exciting. But I'm just sitting on this birth ball, and here's my Bethy, and yeah, I'm just like riding it out. I'm trying to stay distracted, but all my friends have jobs, and Mark is at work, so I'm just like chilling, trying to pass time. My hips really they're not like tight or anything. They feel loose, but like I can just feel things happening, and it comes and goes, and I know that's very contraction-ish. So anyways, that's the update for now. I'm gonna find something to do because I don't know if it's gonna just keep getting more intense, hopefully, or if it'll subside. So yeah, exciting stuff. So it's 3:20 now, and I have decided that these are definitely contractions. They come and go. I'm not really good at timing them, and I seem to have forgotten like everything that I was supposed to know about how far apart and whatever. So I asked Mark to come home because when I have a really intense one, I just wish he was here to be with me and like just be here, I guess. So he should be home soon, which I'm really excited about. Are you excited soon to be Papa?
I am super excited. I drove so fast on the way home, I was like, do not get pulled over, do not get a ticket.
Well, I'm glad you got here safely. Thanks for doing the tub.
Oh, hey! I didn't realize you were taking to me.
Yep.
How come you're taking me back now?
So throughout the day, I was slowly losing my mucus plug, and when I wasn't still sure yet if I was in labor, I kept texting Celeste and even sending her pictures and being like, is this it? Is this my mucus plug? Like, it's just a little bit here and here. And eventually I did, when I went to the bathroom, I had like a large clump of something fall out, and I was like, I'm pretty positive that like that was it. So that was happening from the morning up until that morning, I had no signs of labor, like at all. No Braxton Hicks, well, I might have been having Braxton Hicks and just didn't realize it after I think about it. Either way, but no mucus plug loss before then, no water breaking, like nothing. So it all happened all in one day. Mark was setting the tub up at about 4:45, and by that point we had gotten a hold of our midwife. My contractions when I was sitting on the birth ball were a minute long, or about 40 seconds to a minute long, and they were only 2 to 3 minutes apart, so they were coming very quickly. And that was at like probably about 4, well, yeah, about 3:30, 4 o'clock I started timing my contractions, and that's really close and really fast for as early on as it was. I remember thinking to myself that I needed to quit being a baby because I thought that they were really hurting, and I had heard that first-time moms can labor for a long time, so I was thinking like, oh my god, I have to deal with this for like an entire 24 hours or even 12 hours or anything, and I thought, you need to suck it up, sister, because it's only going to get more intense. Luckily for me though, my labor was a total of maybe like 6 hours of active labor. And not even that, because an hour and 20 minutes of it was pushing. By the time that Mark was blowing the tub up, we had gotten a hold of my midwife, and her and Mark were texting back and forth, and she said, let me know when Michelle can't talk through her contractions anymore and I'll come over. And he texted her right back and said that's now. She can't talk through her contractions. And so she came over, and she got here at like 5? About 5 o'clock. So by the time Celesta arrived, things were pretty intense, and I kind of wanted to know where I was at. And she said that the only way to know how far I was dilated was for her to check me. So we went into the bedroom, and she checked me out, and for some reason the bottom of my cervix was dilated, but the top of my cervix was not dilated at all, and it hurt like a Dickens when she checked me. It was the worst thing ever, trying to deal with a contraction and have her check me for dilation at the same time. And I had not been checked throughout my entire pregnancy. Even though I was overdue, I felt like it was never worth it to find out, because it didn't matter if I wasn't in labor. My dilation didn't matter. You can sit at 2-3 centimeters dilated and it doesn't mean anything for weeks. So anyways, because the top of my cervix wasn't dilated at all, Celesta was kind of like, I'm gonna go, and I'll come back in a few hours or whatnot. But as soon as she was saying that, things just kept getting more and more intense, and finally I was just like, Celesta, I need a break. Like, these contractions are just so close together and they're getting stronger. And so she decided to stay. I took some calcium, magnesium. I took 3 tablespoons of it to try and help with the pain. And I also took, because my hips were hurting so bad, she gave me a herb tincture of skullcap, which I think is like a flower. I don't know what it is. Either way, it's called skullcap. And it did help with my hips. It helped them relax, or something happened, but the pain in my hips went away. Also, up to this point, the only thing that helped with my hip pain which my hip pain wasn't part of my contractions. I don't think, I have no idea why my hips hurt. It was just like the outside. But sitting on the birth ball is the only thing that helped me take it away. So I've been pretty much sitting on the birth ball the whole time. I had eaten some pineapple and some venison sausage, and I drank some coconut water to try and like get something in my system, because I hadn't eaten much that day yet. They started filling up our birth tub at 5:30, which, when you do a home birth, that's your number one source of pain relief. Also, getting in warm water will kind of not slow things down, but like muffle them a little bit. So they use that as a super last resort. But things were so intense, and they had been so intense. I mean, 2 to 3 minutes apart contractions, that's like one right after another, it's not a lot of breaks. So I told Celesta, I'm like, look, I need a break. I just need a break for a minute. And so she said, okay, well then get in the tub. And they only had it like a third of the way full. It wasn't even ready yet. But I got in there, and it was immediate relief. I felt so much better. I was still having contractions, they were still strong. But just the slight relief was so helpful to me mentally, because that's really what I needed a break from, was just a mental break. My body was doing fine, but mentally I was getting exhausted trying to deal with everything. So after being in the tub for about 5 minutes, I asked Mark to get in with me.
When you asked me to get in the tub, I was so eager to want to like help and be able to do something that I just stood up and like started to like take my pants off. And they told me to go put a bathing suit on. So I did that and got in the tub with you.
While I was laboring, I kept hitting these points of kind of like mental exhaustion where, first I was on the ball and I started to get exhausted mentally, and so they were like, okay, get in the water, and that gave me a breath of fresh air, and then I remember getting to that point again where I was mentally tired, and then my water broke, and it was like, oh, okay, we're having progress. And I kept getting these little, like, I would seem to hit a wall and then something would change. So I have no concept of time during all of this. Everything seemed to go so quickly, in my own mind, which is great if you're about to have your first labor, to know that sometimes it doesn't seem like as long as it really is. I was very much just focused on dealing with my contractions. By the time I got in the tub, my contractions also were to the point that they were so intense that I started doing low, grunty, like animalistic noises with my voice, and I had read that that helps, and it really did. For some reason, making those like low, groany noises took some of the pain away. I have no idea what the science behind that is, but obviously it works. I mean, I read it through and through in the books that I had read. Ina May talked about that a lot with her book Guide to Childbirth, and it was really helpful. So that's a major tip. I think I was in the tub for maybe like 2.5 hours, and while I was in there, I remember thinking, like, I understand why women get drugs. Like, this makes sense. Because it was really, I mean, it was intense. It wasn't anything that I couldn't handle, obviously, because I do go through the whole labor and delivery without any pain medication at all. They did give me one more tincture of like some sort of floral herbal something to help me relax a little bit, which I think helped. It's hard to say. I mean, I got through everything, so it must have helped. Another thing that really helped me was the affirmations that I had hanging up around my living room. So things would get really intense, and then, you know, I would be looking up during one of my breaks, and I would see like, every surge brings me closer to my baby, and I would think, yes, like, these are good things that are happening. Like, even though it's really intense for like however long my contractions were at that point, it was effective and helping me get closer to meeting my baby. So the affirmations honestly were such a big help, and I know that's such like a crunchy mom thing to believe in affirmations like that, but I swear that was like a huge factor in keeping me in the right mental frame of mind, which is exactly why I hung them up.
And also I will say that the midwives and stuff that were here with us, just them and their encouragement, you could feel the like changes of energy in what she was doing and feeling.
That's true. The people that we had around us really helped. Celesta always knew what to say. There was one point where things were pretty intense, and I said, Celesta, what is happening? And she said, Michelle, you're having a baby. And it was just the perfect response to kind of make me like have a reality check. One, yes, I'm having a baby, but also it was a bit of humor where I was like, oh yeah, duh. Like, no one said it was gonna be easy. Yeah. And I knew that going into it. But they were also very encouraging. Like, after they could tell by the noises that I was making if it was a really intense contraction. They would also be very supportive after that and be like, oh, that was a great one, you know. And everyone very much followed my lead. Everyone knew to be quiet when I was in the middle of a contraction. I don't think you could hear a pin drop, except for what I was, you know, expressing. But that was really helpful. It allowed me to just focus on what I was doing. So throughout the labor, I would get slightly nauseous, and so we used peppermint oil on a washcloth, and I would just inhale it whenever I would feel nauseous, and it took away all my nausea. So that was really cool. I'm very impressed with how all of these simple remedies were so effective throughout my pregnancy. Or not my pregnancy, I'm sorry. They were so effective throughout my labor.
Like, immediately.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, I just think that's incredible that peppermint oil on a rag, like, takes away my nausea. Who knew? And in such an intense moment, too. Something that I thought was interesting was my body knew, and I knew, that when I got a break from my contractions, soak it up. Like, when my contraction ended, I relaxed, I let it all go. I would sometimes, like, not fall asleep, but like get real chill. And I mean, the pain in between contractions is completely non-existent. Completely. And my body knew that, like, sometimes I would have like a tiny contraction that was only like 30 seconds long, and I would not get a very big break between that and the next one. But sometimes there were like 3 contractions that were all really intense right in a row, and then it felt like I had like a 3-minute break. And I'm sure it wasn't really that long, but it felt that way. And it was like my body knew if I was having some really intense contractions really close to give me a longer break. My body knew exactly what it was doing the entire time. All I had to do was keep up with it and stay chill, which I know there were a few moments where I let out some curse words. Like there was a little bit of intensity for sure.
She made sure to apologize after each one. It was, "Mother, sorry."
I was a very polite laboring woman, apparently.
You were.
I never once swore at Mark or cursed
No?
at him at all. I did pinch his sides a lot during my intense contractions. I remember grabbing his hips and like, and that's where I kind of like pushed my energy. He didn't have bruises though. You were sore.
No, I did, however, I will gladly admit that I took Tylenol within a couple hours after the baby came. And this one here, nothing. Nothing.
It's true,
It was
I did
me
not.
that needed the drugs.
Yeah, I did not need anything after it was over. So anyways, contractions, they come and went, they got more intense, yada, yada, yada. Finally, one contraction comes up, and I pushed in it. I felt like I need to push. So afterwards, I think I went through like 2 more contractions, and I figured I needed to let Celesta know. So I said, hey, on one of those contractions, I felt like I should be pushing. Should I just follow that? And she's thinking like, there's no way that you're fully dilated because just a few hours ago you weren't dilated hardly at all at the top of your cervix. She says she has to check me again. My first thought is, no, don't come near me. But I realized that it's the only way for me to guarantee, that it's okay to push, because you don't want to push when you're not ready. So I go through a few more contractions, and she checks me, and she tells me, you are good to go. And all of a sudden, the baby. All of a sudden, the room was brighter. I was more relaxed. I got so relaxed knowing that I was fully dilated that I asked her if I was going to somehow, like, slow down my labor because I felt so good. I was so glad at that point to know that I could start pushing. So for me personally, the pushing was so much easier than the contractions leading up to it. Once I could push, Celesta told me to stop making the external noises with my voice and to hold everything in and push down with my energy. And I picked up the pushing right away. She said not everybody understands exactly how they're supposed to push, so I don't know, for some reason she was just explaining it the right way and I was grasping it. And right from the get-go, I knew how to push the baby down. So when a contraction would come, for some reason, when I could push down, it didn't hurt. The contraction's energy would just go down and everything was fine. So I do that it's 8 o'clock at this point. The baby was born at 9:18. So I only pushed for less than an hour and 20 minutes. And towards the very end, I believe it's called the Ring of Fire, it was real for me. I'm not going to say it's real for everybody because everyone's different. But for me, the Ring of Fire was a thing. And there were a couple moments during the pushing, again, where, like, it was she was coming down. And I could feel her, like, come down and then go back up. And then come down and go back up. And that's really normal. That's so that way you're gently stretched out instead of just, like, torn apart. So I could feel that. And every time they would check me, she was closer and closer. Eventually, they could see her head, and they told me she had hair. And I was like, yes, I'm so glad she has hair. Like, that's the one thing I really kind of wanted. I mean, it doesn't really matter at all, but...
You can see it right there.
Yeah, right there is her hair.
Oh, there it is.
Anyways, so... the last 3 pushes... I could feel this like ring of fire, and that's when her head is like completely crowning at its biggest point, and it was hot, like it burned. I had to ask, I'm like, am I burning her? And they said no, it's like a rug burn on your arm, like it just kind of, because my skin is being stretched so much. So anyways, we get her head out after these 3 burning pushes, which they were intense. That was probably the most intense part for me were the last 3 pushes with the burning sensation, because I didn't expect that to be so intense. You know, I expected the contractions to be hard. I expected the pushing to be hard, which wasn't, which was really cool. But then the ring of fire, that I kind of forgot about that, so that was a surprise. Either way, we got through it. It was a little vocal. But they say her head's out, and I vocalize like, oh, thank God I did it. And they're like, well, you're not done yet. So they start counting. You know, we're in the water still, so her head's underwater. And that's fine for babies to stay that way. She won't take her first breath of air until she hits the air. So 45 seconds goes by, she's still not coming out, and my contractions have stopped at this point. I don't feel a contraction. And Celesta is telling me don't push until there's a contraction, but I'm getting nervous about her not coming out, and so I want to start pushing. And as I start pushing, Celesta's like, you don't have to do that, you don't have to do that. And I'm like, but I want to because I want her out, you know, and I'm just kind of starting to freak out. And a minute and a half goes by, and they're tracking the timing, that's why I know how long it was. A minute and a half goes by, the 2 midwives that are there say we have to flip her. Her shoulder was stuck, so they grab my leg, they don't ask me anything, they just like throw me over. And as my body is rotating, the baby comes flying out, and they say, Michelle, grab your baby. So I reach down and I pull her up, and with all the adrenaline and things going on, I pull up too far and the cord snaps. So I don't notice that the cord snaps until Celesta starts saying to her assistants, you know, something, I don't know, and I'm looking around.
They had to clip the cord, like, or clamp the cords off immediately.
Right, so on the baby's end, we wanted to do delayed cord clamping. Obviously, I messed that up. So the baby, though, we need to stop the bleeding on her end. On my end, it doesn't really matter because it's just to the placenta. But they clamp the cord really fast. The baby's fine. They tell me everything's fine, but they're like, we need to get you to the bed to deliver the placenta because you can't do it in the water. The baby and I also are 2 different blood types, which we were aware that could be the situation. So we didn't want to risk her blood mixing with mine in case that was true, which it ended up being. But anyways, long story short, we got a shot for that, and I'm totally fine. It's no big deal. So we stand up. The tub has, you know, it's water, so the blood immediately turns everything red, and I'm like looking around like, okay. I stand up, I look at Celesta, and I'm like holding the baby, and I say, is someone gonna take the baby? And they're like, you are. And I'm like, okay. I'm just gonna stand up here. So I stand up, and I'm holding my newborn child, and I look over at Mark, and I think, were you dropping some tears?
Yeah, I was crying and just standing there in shock like this.
Yeah. So I stand up, and we have these like doggy plastic pad things all over the apartment, so that way we don't get blood anywhere in case of something like this. So I stand up with the baby, and I'm in shock. First of all, I just gave birth for the first time. I am, for the first time, looking at my daughter, who my first words when I saw her were, she's so big. I couldn't believe that she just came out of my body. And all this crazy stuff is happening. When I stand up and get out of the tub, I look down and I'm like, that is a lot of blood. And obviously I sound concerned. And the midwives are like, you're fine. It's no big deal. Let's just get to the bedroom. We deliver the placenta. Long story short, we get to the bedroom. Mark and I are holding the baby and just completely in a different world. I mean, they were like checking me out and doing all this stuff, and I barely even noticed. Delivering the placenta was no big deal. It just kind of like comes out of you. It didn't hurt at all. It was way less feeling than anything I had just been feeling. They get the placenta out. They determine I don't need any stitches. I had a tiny tear, but it didn't require stitches. They just said, you know, don't go up and down any steps. You're basically on house arrest for a week because we live on the 3rd floor. The midwives let us hold the baby for like an hour afterwards. We weighed her shortly after that to get her weight. She was 8 pounds, 8 ounces, and she was 21 and a half inches long, and her name is Evelina.
Evelina Thomas.
Evelina Thomas, yes. And yeah, it was crazy. I don't know, it was cool. It wasn't unbearable. Like, it was really intense. I won't lie. It was intense. I had to focus. I had to keep my shit together. You know, I lost my shit a few times, you know, with swearing and whatnot from the more intense contractions. But the breaks were real and they were good. Like I said earlier, when you get those breaks, you enjoy them. You soak them up like it's your first vacation in 10 years. You enjoy it. And I focused really hard on not worrying about the next contraction. There were a few times where I would waste my break from the contractions worrying that another contraction was coming, and then it would make the next contraction like worse because I didn't truly enjoy my time off from them, I guess. So I really focused on when the breaks came, don't worry about anything else in the world, just enjoying that relaxation. And that was a big help. I think it helped my body really relax to kind of like bulk up for the next contraction. So anyway, that's our labor and delivery story. And now we've gone from this. So this video might never make it to air, but I've been feeling a little weird lately. It could be pregnancy. So I bought a test and we're gonna see if anything comes of it. Are you ready?
I think so.
So here's our test that we've had covered up.
What?
Do you see it?
You are?
Dude, do you see it?
Yeah. People said if it's even faint, right?
Is it weird that I want to give you a high five?
No.
Yes. To this. She's just waking up. But let's see if we can. She's kind of sleepy.
Give her a cameo.
This is baby Evelina. Oh. She's like, you guys, just feed me. I'm sleeping.
We smother her with kisses and love.
Yes, we do. She, at the time of filming this, she's gonna be a month old on, well, in like
On
4
Tuesday?
days. No,
Oh, yeah.
Friday. So yeah, she's almost a month old now. Obviously, she looks much bigger than when she was first born. But
She did have this hair though.
she did. She had this hair for sure. Yeah, so all in all, it was a great experience. I recommend Homebirth for any woman who wants to do it. You can do it. You absolutely can do it. Or if you even just want to labor in the hospital without, pain medications. This is really getting long, so we're gonna get going. Okay, everyone have a great day. Bye.
Bye.